For 20 years, from the time I was 19 all the way until I was 39, I could not shake the desperate need to be in a relationship where we lived underneath the same roof. I'm going to be totally, brutally honest with you today about cohabitation versus living separately. Because with the exception of one single instance, every time I moved in with a woman or moved a woman in with me, it was the absolute worst experience of my life. It cost me my time, it cost me my money, and in some cases, it almost cost me my freedom.
Welcome to the Transform You live show.
Welcome to the Transform You live show. I am your host, Marcus Hart. Today we are kicking off a brand new series, and I am taking the mask completely off. I am going to expose the hidden trauma, the spiritual compromises, and the financial drain of living with someone when you haven't done the work. If you are sharing a bed with somebody right now, I'm not here to break you up, but just because you're with that person, you shouldn't be terrified of being alone. This episode is going to hit you right in the chest. We are going to break down why living in separate homes might just save your relationship, your ministry, and your sanity. Now, growing up from 19 all the way to 39, I had the personal head-on experiences of living with several different women. All of those times, except one time, have been absolute train wrecks for me. I have went through financial pain. I went through mental and emotional pain. I went through legal issues. Society normalizes moving in together as the logical next step to save on rent and a number of other things that they feed into the machine to make you think that it is the best thing next to sliced bread. But however, it is actually a trap for unhealed people. But for me, fortunately enough, I got some beautiful blessings out of my situations, and that was my kids. But the structure itself was broken. We have to look at the why. Why was I so addicted to cohabitation? I had to finally look in the mirror and realize that my living situation was a direct symptom of unhealed trauma. I suffered from BPD, better known as borderline personality disorder. So what is exactly borderline personality disorder, also known as BPD? Well, it's a mental health condition, and it's a pattern of instability in your emotions, self-image, relationships, and a deep-seated struggle to regulate the nervous system. This isn't just about worry. It is a absolutely panic for no reason. Even a slight delay in a text response can feel like a total rejection to someone with BPD, triggering desperate efforts to keep the person close. People with BPD often feel like chameleons. This sense of self, their values, career goals, or even personality can shift depending on who they are with, leaving them feeling absolutely empty when they are all alone. It often involves mood crashes, where feelings of euphoria can flip to suicidal despair or intense rage within hours. The emotional baseline is often sensitive and slow to return to calm. The subconscious control loop happens when moving a partner into your home quickly is a subconscious strategy to manage these symptoms. If the partner is always in the same house, the gap where abandonment usually happens, which is that time in that space spent apart, is removed. It provides a 24/7 visual confirmation that they haven't left. By bringing a woman into your space, you control the stage. You control the stage, I should say. You are less likely to be surprised by an exit and can monitor her emotions and actions more closely to soothe your own anxiety. It's an instant family band-aid sometimes, an immediate sense of we, which temporarily fills the void of identity and stability. It creates a ready-made role. You're the provider or you're the partner. However, it's just temporary, and it's a temporary rigid sense of yourself. While this feels like it fixes the fear of abandonment, it often creates a high-pressure environment that can eventually trigger the very instability it was meant to prevent in the first place. Let's talk about the spiritual elephant in the room, though. I can't tell you how many times a heavy spiritual conviction came over me. I could physically feel the Holy Spirit whispering to my soul, telling me not to cohabit, but I totally ignored it and brushed it off. I was actively choosing to please women rather than pleasing God. And let's be real about the flesh. The motivation was all along easy access to sex, easy access to companionship. But that access came at a massive cost to my calling. These live-in relationships suffocated my own ability to be a great businessman and a focused minister. It felt like I was trapped in a marriage that I didn't even want to honor. I craved that freedom of being a young single man. I didn't want to be told what to do, and I certainly didn't want to check in every time I walked out my own front door. And when you break down the literal cost, I mean, man, where's the benefit in it? Talk about the finances. I was always the one stuck covering the house bills, always having my cash being drained that I needed for my business. Then, if you want to pivot a bit to the chaos of physical space, oh my God, none whatsoever. None whatsoever. I couldn't get away from this person. They was always there. I had to pick them up from work or come back home from my own day of working, and then boom, they're right there in my face. And then the cleanliness in the organization. Being a military man, I have pride in cleanliness and organization. And these women would bring their stuff, take up all the closet space, and disrespect the sanctuary. But Transformers, here is the major shift. Once I finally broke that 20-year cycle and got out of those traps, I realized the absolute power of the separate home. Yes, even living in separate homes, a relationship requires some check-ins, some restraint, and some discipline. You can't just operate like a ghost. But the difference in my peace is astronomical compared to what I went through. Now, many may wonder, what are the steps of living apart together? Okay, what is the secret behind it? Well, let me tell you something. I am sleeping like a baby now. When I slept with others in the past, I had issues with nightmares, woke up with very bad neck and back problems, and could literally feel my arms and legs going into paralysis from having to stay in one spot or cuddling. As a side and back sleeper, I need my room, and I need my freedom to switch positions in the night, which you can't do when you have to be mindful of someone else. Now, to pivot a bit, when it comes to organization and cleanliness, I may not be extremely obsessed, but I have it as my top value and priority in life. When someone else comes along and disrespect absolute need to keep the house clean and tidy from top to bottom, of course, the arguments come, and then the irritation arises along with it. I remember coming home to find a space in the home that I had spent, countless hours organizing and cleaning it just to see it as though I did nothing at all. For me, there's nothing more unattractive in a woman that doesn't prioritize cleaning duties. You would think it would be a no-brainer for most adults. For me, this area is so crucial and so important, and I hate that there are people that struggle with it. Respectfully, though, I can't live in clutter and in a home that lacks proper disinfection and reeks in unpleasant smells. A cluttered and unclean home will largely contribute to whether or not you have a healthy mental state. One of the signs of depression is when your home is left unclean for days and sometimes even weeks. Step 2. Finances is one of the parts of your life that if it's not healthy, can raise your stress and anxiety at peaks that won't come down. 20 to 40% of marriage divorces happen due to finances. Studies suggest that 57% of divorced couples cite money arguments as a contributing factor, then driven by disagreements over spending, debt, and conflicting financial values. And it's a reason that I'm bringing this up, by the way. Couples who argue about money once a week or more are 30% more likely to divorce. 54% of people believe having a partner in debt is a major reason to consider divorce. While often cited as a cause, financial strain frequently reveals deeper issues like poor communication, broken trust, or selfishness. Some studies indicate that divorce rates increase, sometimes up to 50% in certain demographics, when the wife significantly earns more than the husband. I have always done well for myself, okay? And it's quite obvious when someone's coming in and they're using you as their retirement plan. But in most of these cohabit relationships, I was the one spending a lot more than I should. I created a bunch of new debt that was totally unnecessary. My savings depleted, and I abandoned my business expenses because of a woman leaving me with the bill and neglecting to contribute to other things that could invest into the relationship. They thought that living with a man with resources meant that they would only have to sit back and look pretty. Based on 2025 and recent consumer spending reports, men are generally the top spenders in relationships. They are often spending a lot more than women on dates, gifts, and vacations, driven partly by traditional courtship roles. While women are increasingly contributing to shared household expenses and then sometimes out earning their partners, the data does not support them being the primary spenders in the context of romantic discretionary expenses. They're not the ones doing it. And you got all these simps out here telling you that you should spend on these women when you're not getting the same treatment in return. We have a huge spending gap when it comes to men and women. A 2025 Tree report revealed that men in relationships often spend $5,000 to sometimes $15,000 or more per year than women on romantic expenses like gifts, vacations, and special occasions. Look where it landed me. And to think, men on average spend roughly $2,000 annually just on dates. This is heavily influenced by the persistence of traditional courtship, with over 75% of people believing man should pay for the first date. As I mentioned, the simps that are coming out and creating content around it. Roughly 36% of men pay 100% of household bills, compared to only 14% of women. While men spend more on dating and romance, some studies indicate women may spend more on general household necessities like groceries, children's items, and the likes, and are often pressured to spend more on personal appearance, which, is costly. Let's be real, it's costly. So while men still tend to spend more in heterosexual relationships, a 2026 report suggests the rise of the provider girlfriend and provider wife, with 45% of women earning as much or more than their partners, leading to increased contribution from women in some relationships. Overall, while women manage a large portion of household consumer spending, men consistently carry the higher financial load when it comes to direct, discretionary spending within the relationship. I have successfully regained control of my monthly budget, and for the first time ever, started to stay on top of my debt and invest towards my retirement and my kids' future. I don't miss those days of spending like crazy. And I certainly don't miss the days of sleeping on the couch and sometimes getting blamed for not caring enough or sabotaging the relationship. Because why? I needed my time away from conflicts. I have found myself in handcuffs because the other person got violent with me, destroyed property, or falsely accused me of initiating physical harm towards them. It's sad. It's very sad. And it's unfortunate that the society still tilts in favor of women when disputes result in intimate partner violence. I had to sit in a domestic violence class with other men and no women in the class, by the way. There was this one guy in class that was arrested for yelling at his wife outside during an argument. Imagine that. Women may not retreat when arguments get heated, and this is often because they want to be heard. They want to address the deeper unmet emotional needs, or they fighting for a resolution rather than avoiding conflict. They may also be holding their ground because they enjoy the assertive engagement of debating points, aka needing the attention one way or the other. This is a difference in most men because we need to retreat to prevent overload and think about the situation rather than addressing it head on, right then and there. It also is a way of protecting one's peace and not prioritizing petty issues. For me, I struggled with PTSD and my anger was terrible for a ton of years until I finally got the help. I always wanted to look like the nice person, of course, so I would retreat and try to run away from arguments. And now that I'm alone in my own house, I don't have to encounter this anymore. Arguments with my girlfriend are more easy to address, but it also took me to gain some interpersonal skills along the way, with also understanding myself and realizing that not all conflict is bad. And it's also the knowing that women just want to be heard. Women may not retreat because those deeper emotional needs met. They want to fight for the resolution rather than avoiding conflict. And they also want to hold the ground because they enjoy the assertive engagement of debating points. This is why separation works in relationships, folks. Separation works in relationships by creating essential space for individual reflection, reducing conflict, and fostering appreciation, often allowing partners to gain perspective on the relationship. It helps break unhealthy cycles of codependency. It encourages personal growth and allows partners to realize how much they miss, value, and appreciate each other. Time apart can really strengthen a relationship. Separation allows partners to reconnect with themselves, with their hobbies, and their individual aspirations, reducing the likelihood of losing their identity within the relationship. And let's be taking a break can act as a reset button. It allows partners to stop taking each other for granted and ultimately see the value in their partner's presence. Constant proximity to a person can lead to resentment, but time apart, on the other hand, provides a cooling off period, reducing high conflict situations and giving partners space to reflect on the relationship's issues. And if you want to talk about romance, we all know that absence makes the heart grow fonder. Time apart can break that stall routine. It can spark a renewed sense of longing and desire to be together. It provides clarity on whether the relationship is healthy and fulfilling. And it allows people to determine if they truly miss their partner or if they feel more at ease alone, which I found out I do. Yeah, I do. True relationship fulfillment requires the space to actually miss the other person. A person always in your face, guess what? It's a recipe for being annoyed and feeling smothered and trapped oftentimes. As much as I became codependent in these relationships, was also as much as I realized that I couldn't really figure myself out or love myself. I realized that I couldn't really figure myself out and love myself. But by having that separation time from the person in the relationship, I was able to reconnect with myself. Oftentimes, it turns into scarcity mindset, which affected me as a businessman and also in my ministry because of the addiction to validation. That was really false validation because manipulation and being needy was present. Being miserable and manipulated was due to this feeling of obligation to prove my love, and that would never pan out well, Transformers. Separate homes make going on actual dates enjoyable again because the focus is on the connection, not on who forgot to take out the trash the other day. When the focus is on connection rather than obligation, it is a lot easier to enjoy each other. It is healthy for your mental and emotional health. You're going to hear me say that a lot. But the big elephant in the room, which is the other big elephant, is having healthy boundaries for yourself and for each other. For separation to be effective, this often will have clear boundaries in place as well. You need a specific purpose, and in some cases, you may need some professional guidance. So as we wrap it up here, and boy, I have said a mouthful, I'm not going to lie to you and say every single night is a party. Yes, there are nights where a little bit of loneliness will creep in. When the house is completely quiet, the ghost of that BPD abandonment will try to whisper in my ear oftentimes. But I learned that leaning into my mission and my purpose is the ultimate filler for that space. When you stop letting toxic cohabitation drain your energy, you suddenly have the bandwidth to build a legacy. I took my time. I took my money and I took my freedom back, and I poured it all into the Transform You Media Network. I had to inspire, ignite, and transform my own life before I could do it for anyone else. Now, I know you have spent enough years ignoring the Holy Spirit and letting unhealed trauma sign your leases. It is time, Transformers, to take your sanctuary back. It is time to turn your pain, your mistakes, and your lived experience into an undeniable platform. If you are tired of shrinking yourself to fit into someone else's clutter, and you are absolutely ready to become a verified voice of truth in this culture, you need to join the Transform You Media News Contributor Program today. I built the Authority Launchpad exactly for cycle breakers just like you. We give you the infrastructure to bypass all of the gatekeepers and broadcast your message to the masses. Click the link in the description right now. Claim your spot. Stop trading your purpose for temporary company. Do the work. Inspire, ignite, and transform. And if you haven't already, subscribe to this channel and also leave us with a like and a comment about what you thought about all of this. Until next time, folks, many blessings, peace, and lots of love. I'm out.